Good morning. We will begin our session in 1 minute once everybody has had a chance to join. See you soon. So now officially good morning and welcome everybody. I am Will, Director of Business at Embody, and on behalf of our team, I would like to welcome you to our webinar today, Embrace the Power of Going Digital. We're very happy to see people registered and joined from all over the world. Just here I see attendees from Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, the UK, India, Hong Kong, Colombia, the US. So we really appreciate it and we hope you make the best out of the session. Before we begin, I would like to bring your attention to the bottom right of the screen where we have the chat button. Feel free to say hello, tell us where you're joining from, and just interact with us throughout the session. Next to it is the questions button. You can write your questions as they come up, and we will make sure to address them at the end. So, with that, I will leave you with my colleagues, Ben and Ellie. Guys, take it away.
Hi there. My name is Ben Szynski. I am the head of product here at Embody. And with me, I have Eleanor Kilby. I'll be calling her Ellie. She who leads up our customer success team. And now what's special about Ellie is that prior to joining Embody, she was the global design director at a major manufacturer in Asia and was responsible for guiding her team through the digital transformation process, soup to nuts. So she has tons of experience and learnings to share with you today. So a little bit on the company, if you're not aware of us, Embody, we're a software company. We've been around for about 15 years, and we have deep roots in creating web-based software for brands selling custom products online, think e-commerce. Okay, so a few years ago, though, we decided to embark on a new platform that takes our learnings from custom products to create a collaborative web-based experience that gives creative teams the capabilities to work with 3D assets to produce design variations and line plans without the need for extensive training or expensive hardware. And as a software provider, we believe that we have a very unique perspective since we engage with many different types of organizations, both brands and suppliers, who are at various stages of their digital transformation. And we've been learning what's working and what has not been working on their journeys. And we've also been consulting them moving forward in their transition to digital. Um, so what we wanted to share these experiences with you all, so we can all work together to help the fashion industry as a whole move forward regarding digital product creation or DPC. We decided to put together a webinar series designed specifically for those in the industry who are embarking on or are in the process of a digital transformation. So throughout the series, this is the first episode in the series of 6. We aim to provide you with insights and practical knowledge to address both the technical and human aspects of this journey. We will dive into each stage of the product development process, offer in-depth discussions with experts in the industry, and discuss best practices and technologies that can help your digital transformation be more collaborative, efficient, and of course effective. Um, so this current episode, we'll be kicking off this series with today's webinar entitled Embrace the Power of Going Digital. So today we'll review why going digital is so important for both brands and suppliers, and why we are behind as an industry. And we'll show how far we've come and showcase some of the fruits of our labor out there in the industry today. And then Ellie will share some of her insights on digital transformation. And so what has worked, what has not worked for her and her teams in the past. So we will continue now whoops, with why go digital. So number one is an efficiency boost. Okay, so this is most obvious. I think this is where most people kind of realize where you get the most out of the biggest bang for your buck here. Studies have shown that end-to-end digital transformation can squeeze the calendar by up to like 40%. And why? Because things like using asset libraries, automation, collaborative tools, and creating right first time physical samples cut out much of the manual and analog processes that are so time consuming. The next on the list here is customer focus. And so today, brands and manufacturers can generate, distribute, and create tighter feedback loops for market analysis well before the products are actually manufactured. And this helps brands take a lot of the guesswork out of upcoming trends and help them sell more products at full price, and also does things like reduce overstocking. And then last but not least, very familiar with this one as well, I'm sure everyone here is, sustainability. Look, going digital just is simply better for the environment. I don't think anybody can argue that. Studies show that apparel and footwear production is responsible for upwards of 10% of global greenhouse gas emissions. And we've heard this for a long time now. I mean, it just still blows my mind every time I hear it. That's us, right? That's our industry doing that. And that carbon footprint is larger than the total emissions of Germany, France, and the UK combined. And it's just, we need to do something about it, obviously. So the next question is, why are we so far behind? I don't have to tell you that we're behind. I know we all feel it. And why can other industries make this transition, 10, 20 years ago, really? And why is the apparel industry have been struggling for so long? Well, there are real valid reasons for this. So we shouldn't feel bad about it. We just need to make a change. Number one is it's a vast market. So literally every human on earth needs clothing, and everyone has different tastes and price points. This provides a very complex web of brands and suppliers, all relying on their own workflows, processes, and pipelines. It's highly affected by global uncertainty. So volume is incredibly high and margins are very low, leaving very little room for investment in both time and money. There's a lack of standards. This has been slowing the industry down for a long time. When it comes to developing and sharing assets with a global audience, not having standards just brings everybody to a halt. For example, if somebody can show me a standard or an example of a tech pack, let me know. And this is an asset that basically everyone in the industry uses, and we are just all over the place on something as simple as that. So it's a major problem. And then the industry as a whole is very creative. And very visual. So soft goods need realistic drapes and near photorealistic results to make accurate decisions. Prints need to be placed perfectly, colors need to be exact, and visual feedback is imperative. So unless everybody is all in and proficient in all areas of BPC, there tends to be a fallback to analog tendencies, such as creating physical samples. You fall back because the timelines are so short and people are not on the same page, even organization to organization, but also internally as well. It just makes it really hard to move forward. But do you know what? Things are improving drastically. Okay, so what we'll be doing is referencing a study from Calypso Coresight Research. It's a 2022 study, so it's about a year old, but I still think it's highly relevant. It's great. I highly recommend you check it out. It's based on the state of the industry regarding their investments into DPC, and the study focused on the brand side primarily, but we're seeing similar trends on the manufacturing side as well. So I think it's still highly relevant for everyone here. The research surveyed over 250 senior decision makers across the retail industry and over 18 different metrics. So one question, one of the first ones they asked them to rate their own organizations on how mature their DPC transformation was. They were asked to give a scale of 1 to 5 based on the following criteria. So they were asked to give a 1 if little or no effort has been done regarding digital transformation. 2 for that when they've developed a strategy or plan. 3 for formal proof of concepts that have actually been implemented in-house. A number 4 for the process scaling behind a proof of concepts, or actually using this in a real life scenario. And then the use case, give a number 5 if the use case has been implemented company wide. People are trained, people are using it, people are comfortable with it. And the results are pretty stunning. So back in 2020, the same survey was given to these leaders, and the result was 2.15, an average of 2.15. And in 2022, that had risen 89% to 4.05. So what that means, if I go back a slide, is that 2 years ago, the average company was kind of more where, if you see my mouse, like more in this area. So barely scratching the surface on putting, proof of concepts together. And now they're more in this realm. So now we're really starting to see these strategies hit the ground, and we're actually seeing the results out in the wild. And this is super, super exciting because primarily we start to see the fruits of our labor. Now, what this also means is that the pace in which we're maturing is slowing down because there's not a whole lot of room left to go, but we're just seeing the returns on these investments, and they're very positive. And so we're also seeing by 2024, 94% of retailers aim to invest in digital transformation, which means if you're not part of this 94%, you're obviously in trouble. But if you're behind the mark, I don't think you need to feel bad. There's real reasons, but I think you really do need to look at yourself and your organization and start to make these decisions to move forward. So that's that there. So so why did this happen? So primarily the reason, believe it or not, is COVID. So there had been this continuous downward pressure on demand, and in order to keep profits up, and the fact that so many of us were and are still working from home, there aren't too many other places to go other than just technology. And basically the thirst has finally arrived, or had finally arrived, and we're really now starting to see the benefits of these investments. Okay, so I'm about to show you some of these benefits now. So what we're seeing is real amazing examples in DPC playing a role throughout many different verticals in the industry. So one of these verticals is retail and e-commerce. So where digital assets are being used to create new and engaging experiences, but most importantly at scale. So this includes 3D and AR, virtual try-ons, product configurators, NFTs, and so on. None of these are really new concepts, but we're finally seeing people actually being able to take advantage of them. We've heard these buzzwords for a long time, but now we're actually seeing them out in the wild and producing real results. Same goes for artificial intelligence. Relatively new, right? The buzz has been high as of late. We're seeing this being used to predict fashion trends, to project inventory, and help designers through generative AI. And also blockchain, which is helping suppliers and consumers trust where their raw materials and products are coming from, and also helps provide a ledger for different processes and events throughout the supply chain. So this is where DPC is really, showing benefits to the industry as a whole. So I'm going to show you a few examples now. So I'm going to start with a diaper, because who wouldn't start with diapers? I picked this one because I was searching around, and I really thought the rendering here looked great, but more importantly that it told a good story. So Shopify here, which is, if you're unaware of them, a very very popular e-commerce platform, they have great tools for embedding digital assets like 3D and AR. And so this is an example by Coterie in which they leverage 3D animations to tell a story on the benefits of their diapers. So you can actually come to this experience and almost feel the product, and tell this story of the benefits, and you can actually see them and actually experience the product in a more engaging way. The next example here is Rebecca Minkoff. This is the brand. They're using digital assets for AR experiences, but also pushing the envelope on what is possible in retail spaces and fitting rooms through the use of virtual or smart mirrors. And I thought this was just really interesting. So in this case, customers can go into a fitting room and try on clothing, okay, like they always have. But in that room, there's a smart mirror. And so they can try on the clothes and look at themselves in it. But if things don't fit, then they can use the mirror to continue their shopping experience without leaving the fitting room. And in many cases, they're partially naked, so they can actually use that, gives the mirror very accurate measurements on their body type, and they can actually use the mirror to try on other clothes, either in store, or maybe they're not supplied there, but they can order them online. So they can also use the mirror to ask an attendant to bring them different sizes, and so on. So what they're doing is leveraging these models, and digital assets to enhance this experience in a physical space, which is really quite new to the industry. The next example is Kala. This is a fashion platform built for designers looking for an accessible way to turn ideas into tangible products. They leverage DALL-E and their generative AI to help designers generate rapid variants of design ideas. So this is just an example of having DALL-E riff on a particular input to provide these visual variants very very quickly, and then have conversations around them. Snapchat down here on the right, and Farfetch. This is a Farfetch example of Snapchat. If you're not familiar with Snapchat, it is a very popular app. Many people use it primarily. It does body tracking, and so you look at yourself on your phone, and has all these filters, so you can apply makeup and hairdos and all sorts of stuff that make you look, silly and interesting and whatever. But what else that they have is body tracking, and a tool that makes it very easy to take 3D models that are produced by solutions such as Embody, so variants of 3D models, and you can easily upload them into the experience and have customers experience your clothing through Snapchat with very little effort. It works really well. I've tried it. It's really impressive. So if you haven't had a chance to do that, look into that, and it's really quite neat. And then last but not least, here's an example of one of our customers, Hanan, which is a supplier based in Hong Kong and a customer of Embody. They are engaging with their customers through shared links and putting a configurator in the hands of decision makers to get rapid feedback on design options. This speeds up the sales process and cuts back on returns, obviously. Now, configurators are not a new concept. I mean, we've been 20 plus years, of course. But what is new is the ability to leverage assets that are created in the design process, 3D in this case, and to leverage them for experiences outside of the design process. So you take a model that was already created and then just simply upload it to a platform, and then apply rules to that product to to engage your customers and allow them to select different product options. Now, this is just newly, this has become possible recently because more companies are being able to create their own assets and not needing to go outside the third parties to be able to create the assets for them. They can leverage assets that are just created in-house, which brings the cost down, brings the time to market way down as well. So we're really starting to see traction in this area as well. So now we're going to, that's kind of it on my examples. So now I'm going to pass the baton to Ellie, who's going to share with you many of the trials and tribulations and also success stories of leading teams through digital transformation. So take it on, Ellie.
Great, thanks, Ben. That was really insightful and great to see some examples of people who are getting it right. So I think at this point in the game, we're all fully aware of the benefits that can be achieved by incorporating digital processes, particularly 3D, into your workflow. But it can still be really, really difficult to make that transition. And when we start to look at the barriers that people list as challenges in 3D implementation, we can see that there's a huge array of reasons why people have failed or they perceive that they might fail. This Calypso research also shows that there's not really a front runner or a single category with a majority of respondents. So that means that people are finding all of these areas equally hard. So when faced with this massive range of challenges before you even get started, it's very easy to become overwhelmed, and then you can easily fall into two traps. The first one is doing nothing. Basically sticking your head in the sand and hoping it's all going to go away, that's just a phase. But I think we can see from other industries and success stories in our own industry that this really isn't the case when it comes to 3D. And so if you do nothing, you run the risk of getting even further left behind, which makes it way more difficult when you eventually bite the bullet and need to catch up with everyone else. The second thing is overreaching. Now, this is kind of the opposite of doing nothing, and it's equally easy to do when you don't know when to start. You might try to do too much too soon, but this can lead to massive overspending. You can also overstretch your resources, and you're not likely to see good results because you just don't have that area of focus. You also risk alienating your team than if you took a more gradual approach to things. So even though there is this huge, I would say, array of reasons, when we look closely at them, we can see that it kind of boils down to three main issues. Those are relating to technology, investment, both on the people side and on the finance side, plus the human side of any kind of process and cultural change. But if you take a systematic approach and you face these challenges head on with a knowledge of how they're all interlinked, then you stand a much better chance of coming up with strategies that's going to allow you and your team to see tangible results. So the first thing you need to do is assess your needs. As is the case in most things in this industry, it's not a case of one size fits all. You need to take a close look at your individual workflows and identify pain points where you think 3D can have the most significant impact. Secondly, you need to spend time researching solutions that are right for you. So if we look back at the Calypso research here, we can see that 35% of respondents, they listed deciding on the right technology as a major roadblock to their DPC implementation. So what you should do is speak to companies that have a similar product or a workflow to your own who have been successful in 3D implementation. Find out how they did this and what they used. You might find that there's one software that works better than another in terms of your particular product category or workflow, or you might decide you need a combination of different tools. Once these tools have been identified, you need to decide who is going to be in the best position to use them. Too often, companies with the best of intentions find it hard to get off that starting block because they are not aligning the right tools with the right skill set. When again we look at the Calypso research, we can see that 35% of people spoke about the lack of digitally trained talent as being a roadblock, and 25% spoke about a lack of understanding on how to integrate that new technology. Now, you're probably going to have to invest in 3D technicians to work in specific softwares because it involves a very unique set of skills and training to create a 3D garment that is going to give that accurate representation of the physical sample, which is the whole point. And you shouldn't really ask your designers or pattern makers to do this because, like I said, it's a completely different skill set and you're just going to reduce efficiency and alienate your team if you try and challenge them to do something that they can't do. So once you've done all of this, then it's really important that you start small. Now, you should always have your master plan that outlays an end-to-end process that's connected. But if you try and push this kind of workflow change overnight, then you're going to end up with a loss of productivity as people are learning these new tools at once. Plus, you're going to create a sense of unease as people are trying to adapt to this change and find their position within the new process. If you've identified an area in your workflow or a particular product, then start out with a pilot project and run that in parallel to your traditional workflows. This will allow you to evaluate the effectiveness of the change and exposes the team to tangible results whilst they are able to remain productive. When you are evaluating the process, make sure to engage your team and listen to their feedback. Any kind of change that involves a cultural shift can be really hard for people. Not only is there that fear of replacement or their position within that new workflow, there can also be a certain element of complacency if they believe, okay, these old methods, they're still working well enough. But by demonstrating how digital tools will enhance and elevate their workflow rather than replace it completely, and get them actively involved in the implementation of these tools, then they can become agents of change rather than subjects of change. And they become inspired to work together to reach the end goal. Finally, share your success stories from within your organization. If your pilot project is focusing on one customer and you see a reduction of physical samples that season, shout about it. Tell everyone else. You will soon find the other departments in your company start approaching you and asking you for 3D rather than the other way around. So digital tools, they're absolutely amazing, but they're not a magic wand. You need to have a clear vision of what you are trying to achieve, a plan on how you're going to do this, and a team that fully understands and believes in the value that these tools can bring to the process if you're going to be successful in implementation. Now, I know that sounds really tough, but trust me, you can do this. And I am not just, talking from nowhere here. I'm talking from experience. As Ben mentioned, before I joined Embody, I used to run product development and design teams internationally, and I played a leading role in the 3D implementation within my companies. I knew change that was not going to happen overnight, so I decided to target buying samples initially with a goal of reducing remakes and getting right first-time samples. I started out with my fashion lines as I identified that as an area that had the most remakes due to the complexity of the garments. And I focused on one customer and one department at a time. When I started to see results and started to speak to everyone about these results, I found that I had department heads and account managers basically lining up and begging me to help them improve their hit rates in the same way that I had for other departments. And so I was not facing that same pushback that I had when I got started. After bringing DPC into my fashion lines, I really wanted to reap the same benefits for my continuity styles. But I realized that I couldn't approach them in the same way. The fact that they were continuity styles meant that the shape and the silhouette was mostly set, and the changes that we were making every season were all down to colors and prints and graphics and perhaps, fabric textures. So if I was to feed all of this into my 3D technicians as well, I would just fully load their capacity and they wouldn't be able to work on new shapes and new silhouettes for fashion. A lot of the time I would see back and forth between them and my designers as they were tweaking colors or rescaling a print down 10%. Or I'd end up with two people sat on one computer working on the same product, which, let's face it, is really not efficient. So I had to go back to the research stage of my process and find myself a new tool. So basically, I wanted something that was easy to use because I didn't have a huge amount of time to train my designers. Plus, I didn't want them to have to work in 2D patterns because, like I say, they know about 2D patterns, but it's not their particular skill set. I wanted something that was easy to run because I couldn't afford to replace all of their hardware with really expensive high-tech machines. So ideally something that was cloud-based. So this was quite a big list, which I thought was wishful thinking, but I was wrong because this is where I was introduced to Embody and they completely changed the game. So at Embody, we offer an online-based platform which allows creative teams to collaborate on 3D garments without the need for all of this extensive training and the expensive hardware. 3D garments that have been created in Clo, in Browseware, in Marvelous Design, Optitex, basically any 3D software that you're working with, can be uploaded to the platform as blank canvases. And then your designers can bring them to life with colors and graphics and textures. But rather than just telling you about what Embody can do, what I would love to do is show you. So what I'm going to do is I am going to turn my camera off and go into demo mode. What I would recommend you guys do is minimize any other windows and maximize your demo screen, because then you'll really be able to see the interface clearly. So now you should be able to see the Orchids platform. And here in my product grid, you can see I have these blank garments, which were my initial uploads, as well as some garments that designers have worked into and created different colorway and print variations. When I go into a product, I have a huge array of tools that I can use as a designer and things that I can do to a product. So I can play around with color on different areas of my garment. I can access my libraries. Now, we will go into libraries in one of the subsequent webinars in more detail, so I recommend you guys join this. But here you can see I can easily add some other color options to my garment and be able to make the changes live. As well as color changes, I can also play around with textures. So for example, here on my side panel, I can toggle between some different jersey textures here. Now this is fab when you've got like a texture blocking trend rather than color blocking. Your designers can really visualize that without having to go back to the 3D technician and asking them for endless drapes and renderings. as well as colors and textures. We also offer graphic placements. So here I have a graphic which was brought in as basically a plain white PNG file, but within the platform, I'm able to change colors. What I'm also able to do is play around with different effects, because we understand you're not always just going to be working with flat prints. You're going to want to see embroideries and things like embossed effects and debossed effects, things like foils, which, work with the light as you use the garment, as you turn the garment around. This one is one of my favorites. It does not go with this garment at all, but I really wanted to show it to you guys because it really brings this graphic to life in this 3D atmosphere. It is super simple to add a new graphic. You can either drag and drop it from your device, or again, you can access your libraries. You can place it on your garment in 3D, play around with the scale by using your draggers, or set specific dimensions. You can also place it in the 2D window. Now, I absolutely love this feature because say now you know that this graphic needs to be, 7 centimeters below your front neck drop. You can just type it in there and it automatically places it for you. And you can then also download a pattern board, which you can share with your print embroidery plants or with your sample room. As well as placement graphics, you can also work with all over prints. So here I have a stripe that has been brought in with 2 colors, and directly in the platform, I can play around with the colors without having to go back to Illustrator or Photoshop to do that. Again, I can add my own ones from my library or my device. Here, I'm just going to add this wash effect, apply my placement. And again, you can play around with the scale of your print. If you've got something like a bias print, you can change the rotation. And yeah, just bring your designs to life and get creative. So we've talked about collaboration a lot, and one of the fab tools that we have in terms of collaboration is comments. So when you're working with different members of your team, or you're working from like brand to supplier, and you want to communicate on a garment and leave comments or feedback for people, you can just create a new comment here. So I'm just going to add one. Oh, I see Ben's already added one for me. What do you want to see, Ben? Oh, Ben wants to see a new fabric texture on the side panel. So I can just make that change, then go back to him and say, how about a rib? And he would get an automatic alert to his email. And we've also got a history of the comments within the product itself. And what's great is when you put them next to an area of a garment, you can move it around and you can see, okay, this is where this comment is relating to. This is amazing when someone else comes into this garment, maybe at a later stage, and they want to know why certain changes have been made. The full history is stored within the product itself. So once you've finished with all of your design options, you're going to want to see the range altogether, or you're going to want to, communicate internally about that range or present it to your customer. And this is where our Spaces feature really comes into its own. In Spaces, I am able to add 3D and 2D assets. So I can add things like my inspiration images, color palettes, different text and explanations. I can make some effects on each image. So here I want to apply a shadow to this particular 3D garment to make it pop out. So I can do things here like my drop shadows and glows. And these aren't just static thumbnail images. I can view them in 3D, which will give me this 3D pop-up, where again, I can view it in rotation and zoom in and out. And I can also make live changes. So for example, if I had shared this with a customer, or I was presenting live to a customer on a video call, and they said that they wanted to make a change to this particular set, they weren't happy with the colors, for example. I could go to the product, it would automatically load that particular product and design variant. I would then save it. And once it's finished saving, I can quickly go back to my board and my presentation would have updated in real time. So your designers are not having to get renderings done. You can see here that my main image is updated, plus the detailed view has updated as well. So like I say, you're not having to get multiple renderings done and then replace them in your presentation and redo all of that work that you've already done on layout and position. One of our new features, actually, which is one of my favorites when it comes to spaces and presentations, is frames. So you can see here, I have a bit of an infinite workspace to work with. But I have these blue areas where I've created artboards. Now, when I want to present to a customer or internally, I can go into presentation mode and view this as a slideshow. And this can be also shared outside of the platform as an online slideshow for your customers. So there really is so much that you can do with the platform. And this is just a taster. As Ben mentioned at the start of the session, this is just the first in our webinar series. And in the subsequent sessions, we'll be going through different areas of the digital product development process in detail. And we'll also be talking about how Embody can assist in each stage of that process. So I would really love for you all to join us for those. I think at this point, we can probably go to the questions. But thank you so much for attending today. And yeah, we hope to see you in the next sessions too.
Thank you so much, Ben and Ellie, for such an insightful session. We do have a question in the questions tab. I'll read it for you, Ben, and we can go from there. If anybody still has additional questions, you still have time to post them in the questions tab. Question: we are a company that is just getting started with going digital. Do you have a recommendation on who to talk to get off the ground?
Yeah, there's lots of different options out there. There's consultants that you can find online that are close to you that can help come in, see your current processes and provide suggestions and so on. But another really good recommendation is just talk to your peers. Whether they're internal or even external. I mean, everyone, like I mentioned earlier, everyone's going through this process. Everyone's trying new things. Some stuff works, some stuff doesn't. Just talk to the people that are in the industry along with you, and that should provide you a lot of guidance. I also just think, like I said earlier as well, the software companies that are providing the solutions, the ones that are providing the solutions are there on the ground with lots of different companies. We're seeing lots of different, people, and scenarios that are either working or not. And so therefore, we are in a good position to be able to help you. So if you come on board, then we can actually talk to you and help you, get through the process.
Thank you. We have time for one more question. Do you have examples of companies that are currently using this platform that we can use live?
Not really sure what that's getting at.
So I think in terms of our platform, a good place to go would be the Embody website, where we have some case studies of success stories of people who are using our platform. So Ben talked about one earlier, the Hannon case study. That is one of our most recent ones. There's also a case study to do with my old company, Norlanka. So there you can really see, you know, real live results and some figures relating to lead time improvement, reduction of samples, with quotes from people who have actually been using it and using it successfully.
Thank you, Ellie. And in addition to that, you can test our platform for free by going to embody.com pricing page, and we offer a free plan. Ben is going to share in a second a QR code that can take you directly to our pricing page. So, with that, I don't think there's any additional questions for now. You can always contact us at embody.com or info@embody.com to schedule a demo. We thank you for attending our session today, and please make sure to join our next one where we will discuss digital materials and how to collaborate with your fabric suppliers. So, thank you, everybody, and have a great rest of your day. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.